Well, hello everyone. This is a follow-up presentation to the presentation I made last safety event where I was presenting the simulator, and now we have, on top of that, we've made experiments to see how close it was to the actual measurements we get in backup calls. So let's just have a look at the simulator first. Yeah. The backup call simulator at the moment, it works as a web page that you can find the address on the results with the results of the simulator. There were in the past other backup falls that were measured and made, but they're all made like you have so many parameters that you can compare in the backup fall that it was just impossible to get all the data from the old backup falls. You don't know how much extra webbing there is in the backup, how much, what was exactly the base tension, how it was measured, all of those things. So we just made a new experiment, and now I'm gonna try to show a video. So probably it's not gonna work. Maybe I can just put the link to the video in the okay, the video I need to have to be authorized to have it, and it's on. Well, okay. This is just a video of a big log falling. In okay, let's not go into the video, but I'm going to explain what's on this schematics here. So this is the whole setup we had in. It was happening in Capelli in Switzerland. So there is a gorge and there is a bridge above, which is very convenient because then we could, with the bridge, we could attach a log to a grigri and lift the log. It was a 60-kilo log, just a piece of wood that we cut in the forest, and it was attached to a setup. So we had a connection, ping tube on one side, Nylov on the other, and then Dyneema as backup. We had a bunch of load cells. So there is one on the far side anchor, a line scale 3, which records at 1600 hertz, if I'm right. Then there was a wireless load cell attached to the log. So it has I think it's Bluetooth connection. And this one was measuring at 100 hertz, yes. And then there is a line scale 2 and another load cell on the other anchor. So these two load cells should have measured the same thing. They didn't. We'll get back to this a bit later. This other load cell was 100 hertz. Line scale 2 is supposed to be 40 hertz, but well, yeah, we'll see. This other load cell was connected to the laptop. Okay. Then we had a camera filming everything with a rope that was used to measure the distance that the log would fall. So the rope had a tape every meter, and you could see that on the camera. And then finally, to simulate a backup fall without having to cut a piece of webbing every time, we had an orange, so the releasable Slackline web lock with just 5 centimeters of tail out of the orange. So when we did the brutal release of the orange, it just was a bit like cutting the webbing without having to cut the webbing every time. Oh, and last thing is that sometimes you want to have a fall distance, like if the slackliner is standing and then at the end of the fall he's below the line. You cannot do that with a log because logs don't stand very well on high lines. So we had a short leash attached to the main line and a long leash attached to the backup line. And this means that the extra length is the extra falling length between the two. And with this setup, we made 13 leash falls or backup falls in different configuration of length of backup, of length of ping tube versus length of Nylov. And these are the measured forces we got in all those 13 falls. So the first one, how to read this? Everything blue is the anchor A, everything green is anchor B. So anchor A was this one, anchor B was this one, and everything red is the force in the leash. And then you have, for all of them, we have the simulated force in the darker color and the real force in the lighter color. And we can see that in almost all cases except for this one, and well, yeah, around here, the simulated force are higher than the recorded force, but they're always in the same range, except for some of these there. This is a bit. This shows a bit the limit of the simulator. So the first one were just leash falls. Then we had here. This is a more intense force because we had a leash pull, but the backup was tight, so it engaged the Dyneema webbing straight away. And here we had some backup falls. Sometimes we lost data, so that's why there is no blue here or no orange here. Here this was the backup fall on full length of Dyneema. So that's why the forces are much higher, and they're actually higher than, well, in the simulation. In the real life they're lower, but in simulation they're higher than 8 kilonewton, and 8 kilonewton is what we recommend as maximum force in the backup fall scenario in the ISA 21 highline system standard. So if you have this, it's considered that the system is not safe. So yeah, this is the excerpt from the highline system standard. Maximum force in the main line should not exceed 12 kilonewton, and maximum force after from a backup fall should not exceed 8 kilonewton, measured at the anchors. So these cases are not safe, and these are the cases where the whole length of Dyneema webbing was getting engaged. So you shouldn't put Dyneema backup or mainline as on 45-meter line. Yeah, it's a bit common sense, but I mean sometimes you see incidents and you wonder why it happened like this. So yeah, in conclusion, conclusion from this experiment were that the simulator is pretty good. We need to have more experiments for longer lines and different kinds of tension, and also that Dyneema backups. If you have a split setup, they're perfectly safe to use. So like what we use in freestyle most of the time now, like high-tech freestyle setups have a connection in the middle or a trick zone in the middle, which has a connection, and then the backup is Dyneema on both sides, and that is like from those experiments, it's okay to have that as a backup. Okay, so just a bit of, because we have plenty of time, I made this presentation really short, but there is not much. If you want to have more information about all of this, there is a publication available on the ISA website. But here is what we got from the load cell. So this is the anchor B load cell, and we had on the 11th fall. So if we look at the 11th fall, it was this one. So this is just one example. Measured force anchor B is just around 6 kilonewton, and this is what we have here as a peak force. So these are all the points, the data points. So you can see here that yes, we do have 100 hertz is plenty enough to capture the peak load of the force. Like we're not missing any points of data there, and you can see that like this is a zoom out on this part, and you have all those points near 6,000. So at most we're missing 0.0, I don't know, like 1 Newton. Now, the thing is, if you take something which would have a lower sampling rate, then imagine you have just these points there, then you should have like this is a 1 in 4, so it's instead of 100 hertz, it's 25 hertz, and you should still have something which captures mostly the peak. Unfortunately, line scale 2 had this as a maximum value, so either it's a problem from the calibration of the two load cells, which is possible. We tried to calibrate them before, but we only could we calibrated them in the range of 0 to 200 kilo, so 0 to 2000 Newton, but not, we didn't go to 6000 Newton, so maybe there's an error here, but it was consistently that the line scale 2 was showing lower value by 5 to 10% as the load cell.
The reading of that graphic is what fault, like what was the system, you know? Because I would imagine like the top of the curve is going to depend on the kind of backup hole you have. If you have like nylon on it, or if it's
so this was
skip more or less.
Can you repeat the question so they hear it?
Yes. So Santi was asking what fall is it that we have in this precise graphic. So this was 11th backup fall. So I don't remember. Like, I think we had a piece of dyneema and the rest was nylon. I don't like one of those.
Longer piece cut.
Yes, so probably we had 30 meter of nylon with a dyneema backup, and that was the part that we cut, and the other leftover 15 meters were nylon.
Yeah, because I would imagine the more static the webbing is, the more it's going to skip at that time.
Yes, actually, we could have a look at this. I'm not sure if I can access from this laptop, but we can discuss this later. We have, or in the publication, you can see all the data, and even for the faster peaks, like for full dyneema, it was still enough. Like we could still see all the points. The issue that we had was sometimes with the load cell that was attached to the log here, there was miscommunication. Like when the load cell gets a 60 kilo log in the face, it stops emitting Bluetooth. Weirdly. Oh, by the way, this load cell is dead as of yesterday. The one that did this. So yeah, this is one more thing that to say that it's hard from these from seeing this, it's a bit tricky to think of experiments that what happened in the past which had a different kind of load cells. So you really need, if we want to make more of these experiments, but we really need to have a really good environment to measure everything. One other way to measure things is with video. Well, we did measure things with camera, just to measure the fall height. But if you have a high-speed camera, you can actually measure. You can actually do without the load cell attached to the log, because you can just measure the acceleration of the log to know the force. So this is something I want to explore, but. If anybody who's hearing this has a way to do this, please reach me or the ISA in general, and we'll be very happy to do those kind of experiments. That's it for my talk. Any questions?
Yeah, Liam has one. Liam, go ahead.
Because we could have scenarios where it's basically only high tech in a freestyle setup.
And bungees. So I have not tried to put bungees in the setup, but I think it's possible using the simulator with bungees. The question, it is possible to put bungees on the simulator. The question is, we also need to do bungee test backup holes, and I'm not sure the simulator has a good enough resolution. It's a numerical approximation behind it, so. That's one thing that's why I'm remaking simulators, because I want to be able to have it to test more before I publish it. Like not just test that the idea behind the math is correct, but also that the numerical simulation converges and gives a good result. And this was not able to do with the way I coded the simulator first, which was just I don't know. It took maybe 2 days to code it, and that's about it. So it needs a better version. And in that better version, I'll make sure I can include bungees. But then I need bungees to test backup holes. Yoshi, please give me bungees.
Just bought some.
Oh yes, I did. Other questions? I cannot hear you because I'm on the laptop.
Who is feedbacking? Can you repeat the question?
No. Can anybody hear?
Can you turn off the mic? Turn off the mic there.
No. This one. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question, Liam?
Alright. Are you aware of the project they did in Belgium? I think for a 2-kilometer line. I think Santi was part of it. He's there. They did a full calculation also on because they didn't have too much height and they also had things close by both sides. So they did a full calculation on also sideways if they would hit anything sideways and stuff. I guess that's a bigger issue on big lines, but it could be also for some urban lines or for some specific projects or competitions. Maybe in the future. I mean, I know it adds a lot of variables and complexity to the system, but in the future it would be interesting to calculate also if you're going to hit anything on the sides. You add a dimension to the simulator.
Okay. So yes, big lines are a problem. Like the simulator, it's not. It's taking into account the linear weight of the webbing, but not much. And also, it's only 2D, so it doesn't do anything for the sideways. It's really backup call and the most simple way, so that it can be run on a browser page. So it doesn't take into account it takes it into account just saying, okay, the whole setup weighs this much, and I add this weight around the place where the slackliner is. But it doesn't really take into it. Definitely doesn't do the whole chain equation, hanging chain equation. That would be just too complex for a setup like this. Also, because then you need with hanging chain equation with also different stretches in the whole webbing is really complex.
Okay, let's go 5 minutes of pause then.
Yeah, okay, then we have a small 5-minute break before the next presentation, which is going to be by Florent. And this time we can have everything set up correctly. I'll share the slides so you can have it, you can check the links. Roberto?
Hi, nice job. I wanted to ask ask the complexity of adding simulating a tandem fall, like in a worst case scenario. Would you just calculate double the weight, for example, or for a worst case scenario?
Yes. So I'm wondering why you're asking this. If you're thinking about tandems where both highliners are in the same spot, it's easy. Yeah, you just put the sum of the weights, and that's okay.
Are they impacting at the same time?
Yeah, that doesn't matter. But if you want something where the slideliners are in 2 different spots, again, this simulator doesn't do it.
Okay. Cool.
He's
Sorry.
speaking.
Sorry, Roberto. Are you off?
Might off.
Worst worst case scenario, or meaning highest forces, would be two slackliners that falling from the same spot at the same time?
I'm not sure. I don't know enough about tandem physics. Like the one with two slackliners that is falling at the same time in the same spot, that one you can measure. It's the same thing as having a heavier slackliner.